Special thank you to our sponsor of Russ Reels Live, Ironhead Roofing in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. For more information on Ironhead Roofing and their roofing services, go to ironheadroofing.com. Good afternoon, everybody. I almost said good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, at least it's afternoon here in Oregon. And I don't know what time it is where you are, but you are on Russ Reels Live right now. And I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm really excited about this show. What an important topic. You know, it can be a super serious topic, but it also can bring hope and joy to lives and inspiration to people. When people overcome challenges, overcome battles. And today we're going to be talking perspectives on cancer. And you know, I'm big on perspective because I think your life perspective is so important, how you look at things. You know, I always say life happens and then you choose, because there's a lot of crummy things in life that happen, but you get to take those, you get to mold those, and you get to move forward and do something good with your life, no matter what's happening, no matter what your circumstances. You know, I want to remind you, you are not your circumstances. You are not defined by your circumstances. You are an amazing person and just need to move forward, have confidence in yourself, and know that no matter what is happening in your life, you can move forward and make it a better day tomorrow. You can make it a better hour next hour, better moment next moment. You just need to keep moving, keep smiling, and remember that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that there's good things ahead. I truly believe that. I have been truly blessed by God. You know, I tell everybody that my wider purpose in life is to inspire and encourage you to live a purpose-driven life of significance. So what do I mean? I want you to be a world changer. I want you to be a difference maker. I want you to do the amazing things God has created you to do. And I believe with all my heart that you were created to do amazing things. You just have to do it. Move forward. My good friend D. Scott Smith always says the barrier to entry and progress today is just taking a step, the next step, moving forward and just doing it. A lot of times we just have to take action. That's really what it's all about, and keep a positive perspective all around that. You know, in my book, Befuddled, Live the Life You Choose, I talk about positive perspective, positive mindset. And I have been able to practice that real life myself because of my own cancer journey. We're going to get more into that. But I just wanted to thank you all again for being here. I want to remind you, I'm here every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Russ Reels Live. That's right, 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Russ Reels Live every Thursday. And I just love this community. I love all the people that have come and continue to bless us and bless each other. You know, this is a great place to connect with amazing people. My guests today are super amazing overcomers and are all part of a book, Perspectives on Cancer. That the first person I'm going to bring on is the architect of all of this because of his own cancer story. And my good friend, Mr. Tim Sohn, is going to join me here in the house. Hello, Tim.
Hello, Russ Hedge. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. And, you know, you and I now have been friends for a long time. We met on the Tim and Jim show live the first time that we met. And I'm thinking, who is this Tim guy, right? I'll bet everybody that tuned in today was thinking, who is this Tim guy? So you know what? Why don't you tell everybody, who is this Tim guy?
Yes, definitely. So thanks again so much for having me, Russ. So for those of you who haven't met me, or for those of you who have met me, maybe you'll learn something new. So first and foremost, I'm a husband. I'm a dad to 2 girls. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I am a 16-year cancer warrior, chronic myeloid leukemia. I never thought I'd need to learn the word myeloid. Kind of sounds like something from outer space, right, Russ?
It does kind of, yeah.
I'm also a live stream producer and help businesses with social media. But I'm also the host of a show called Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, which is where cancer patients, survivors, and supporters gather to share their stories and show up. Show up. See what I did there? Show up.
That was good. That
Put
was
up
really good.
and connect and support each other. And the show is every Tuesday at 3:00 Eastern time. Except this coming Tuesday, Russ Hedge is going to be that guy over there. Is going to be the guest on the show. Whoop whoop. And but the show is going to be at 2:00 Eastern time because I have another work commitment at 3. But this coming week it's going to be at 2:00, and Russ is going to be the incredible guest. So the show, and then as well, author of this book that we're going to be talking about today, and we're also going to have some other contributors of this book on today that Russ is going to get to. And the book is called Perspectives on Cancer. Cancer patients, survivors, and supporters share their stories. And the book includes my cancer story, as well as the stories of 10 other cancer patients, survivors, and supporters, with the goal of encouraging others in the cancer community to share their stories when they're ready, and also to let others know that they're not alone, that we're all in this together. And it's really all about community, which I know you're all about, Russ.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I want to talk more about that later, but coming together, supporting each other through the journey of cancer. Wow. It's hard for me not to break down based on the amount of support that I've received. And we'll talk more about that. But what I really want to do, Tim, thank you, is get our other people in the room and get them introduced, and we'll move forward from there. We're going to bring Terri in next. We always go ladies first, even though Tim came first, I guess. But hi, Terri.
Hi, Russ, and thank you for having me today.
You bet. You bet. I am so blessed to meet you and have you here. And so, Terri, give us a little snapshot of who you are and your tie into cancer.
Sure. My name is Terri Tomoff. I'm a wife and mother of 2 adult children, Olivia and Ryan, chief caregiver, hope provider, former marathoner, now walker runner / walker runner, a writer, almost daily blogger. I'm a sewist and I'm a quilter. I have my own business with t-shirt quilts. I'm a USS soccer referee, world traveler, and a published author. I live in Crofton, Maryland with my husband, Bill, and my son, Ryan. And I'm thrilled to share today about my experience as a cancer supporter. And lo and behold, when I was writing my book called The Focus Fight, A Childhood Cancer Journey from Mayhem to Miracles, in 2001, I was diagnosed with my own cancer, uterine cancer. So I became the patient after caregiving for my son for over 25 years. So I know both sides of the coin, and nothing has been easy about it, but I live a life of hope and inspiration, and being here and meeting Tim, and now you, Russ, you're part of my inspiration to keep going, keep caregiving, and keep living a full and healthy life. So thanks for having me.
Oh, you bet. I am so blessed to have you on. And I have also experienced it from both sides. I lost my dad to lung cancer. And actually, the first time that I was on Perspectives on Cancer with Tim, it was talking about my tie-in with losing my father. So anyway, we're going to keep her moving here. We're going to bring Mark in. Mark Kageyama is here, good friend. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Russ. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you. Thank you. I'm feeling good because, as many people know, I'm at the coming out of the last 3 weeks of not good. And so everybody here could probably relate to that. So last 3 weeks have been a little rough for me. So, hey, Mark, give everybody a little snapshot. Who is Mark and what is your tie into cancer?
I just wanted to mention off the bat that your entry into this program was phenomenal. It was really good. So my hat's off to you. That was outstanding. I was really impressed.
Thank you.
But my name is Mark Kageyama, and I was born and raised in Southern California. And back in 2021, actually late 2020, out of the blue, one day in October of 2020, I wasn't able to walk. It was just happen, boom. I wasn't able to walk. And so my wife took me to the doctor. They kind of patched me up with some Band-Aids and glue and stuff like that. And so I was able to at least walk away from the facility somewhat. And then I started doing a deep dive into what in the world is going on, because, all of a sudden that's just not normal not to walk. So I started getting a lot of testing, and the testing lasted weeks and weeks and weeks. And as most cancer patients know, the tests are not fun and they're invasive. And I had biopsies, including lung and bone and prostate. And I had scans and I had MRIs and you name it, and I probably had it. But anyway, in early 2021, my oncologist called us into her office, and she said to me, and just matter of factly, she said, "Your cancer is so bad that I can't cure you. You have stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer." And she was basically saying I could help make your life more comfortable, but she also said, "I cannot cure you." And at that point, I was actually relieved, because after going for weeks and weeks and weeks with all kinds of testing, to finally know what I was actually dealing with was a relief. And so at that point, I set out on the journey, and because in my mind, there was no way that I was going to accept what she was telling me.
Right.
I don't believe that any human being has the right to tell another human being how long they have to live. And
Sure.
so I wasn't having what she was telling me. And so I set out on my journey to live. And I set my first goal was to make it to my birthday in June, which is actually coming up again.
When is your birthday in June, Mark?
It's on the 9th.
Oh, because mine's in June also. Hey, you know what? I'm since I've broken in here, we're gonna pause on your story because I want to get deeper into it, but I want to get Savio in the room here
Sounds
before
good.
we get going. So hang tight for just a second, 'cause yours is incredible, but hang tight on that. We're gonna leave people cliffhanger. Okay, here we go. Next, we're gonna bring we're gonna get Savio in the room here, and we have him just via audio today. Hey, Savio.
Hey, Russ, thank you so much for the invitation here. I'm so excited to be part of this conversation today.
Well, we're so glad to have you here. And so really just let's start off by just giving everybody a snapshot. Who is Savio, and what is your tie into cancer?
Sure. So, hi, everyone. My name is Savio P. Clementi. I'm a board certified wellness coach. I'm a best-selling author. I'm a media journalist and a podcaster. And my tie into cancer really started in 2014. I'm a stage 3 DLBCL, which is diffuse large B-cell lymphoma survivor. I'm so far 8 years in survivorship. And really my goal and the individuals that I help are cancer survivors in general, because there's a different lens that your life is after cancer and before cancer. And I really help cancer survivors navigate that journey from overcoming obstacles in their life, gaining clarity, and actually discovering their superpower to tell their unique story so that could move forward for someone else.
Well, I think we are given a platform, and what you just said just makes me think, we're given the ability to share and inspire other people based on what's happening in our lives. And I think that's so important. And Tim, I'm going to bounce back to you, because this whole adventure with everybody here in the room started with you, and you having the vulnerability and willingness to share your cancer story on Jenny Gold's show now a couple years ago. I can't remember. Is it 3 years ago?
It was in June of 2021.
Wow, time is flying. So almost 2 years ago. Okay,
Almost
so
two.
Anyway, so what gave you the inspiration to really pull this perspectives on cancer together that's given everybody here an opportunity to share their story and to reach out a little bit more?
Yeah, so I had started sharing my story, like you said, on Jenny Gold's show called Podcast Not Podcast. And then I ended up creating the Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer show with Carol Ulker in 2021 also. And then what I did want to create a book. But I'm someone who, I don't like reading long things. I don't like writing long things. And there's someone actually in this room right here who unknowingly at the time inspired me to create this book. And that's Savio, because Savio showed up at the in-person Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer event in November. And he showed up with this book right here called I Survived Cancer and Here Is How I Did It. And it has his cancer story as well as other cancer survivors' journeys in it as well. And when I saw the idea of sharing my cancer story, but then also including other cancer survivors or patients or supporters, whoever's stories in the book, and I had the show platform, I reached out to guests such as Savio and Terri and Mark and Susanna Webb and Steve Sullivan and Tim McDonald. And speaking of Tim McDonald actually had a liver transplant. I think it was yesterday, and he's out of the liver transplant. So definitely sending positive vibes to Tim. And so the inspiration for the book came when Savio showed up at the in-person Perspectives event. And in a matter of maybe 2 weeks, I started reaching out to people who had been on the show.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it takes that person with the little nudge and inspiration to get us to do things. I mean, I wouldn't have done half what I'm doing, including my book, had it not been, number one, for D. Scott Smith, even bringing up the topic and getting me started. And number two, for my beautiful wife, who really encouraged me to jump in when COVID hit and just write the book, but it was not about cancer, because at that point I wasn't dealing with that. A short time after that, I dealt with my dad passing away from lung cancer, and you and I talked about that on Perspectives with Cancer. And then voila, here about 9 months ago, I embarked on my own cancer journey. So I'm going to give just a little snippet of what I'm dealing with at the moment, because I'm going through it right as we speak. And then I want to dive into each individual, especially, because each of you were in the book, and we're telling about your cancer journey and inspiring people through that. So, I've really been blessed to be able to reach out and let people know. People have asked me to keep them informed on what's going on, and I really shot to encourage and inspire people. And that's what I'm all about. And the number one thing that's really important to me, I'm a strong man of faith, and I believe that God's got me, and things are going to work out great. But there's some real struggles, and showing people that you come out on the other side of just those struggles is a big deal. So I was diagnosed with melanoma skin cancer on the bottom of my foot. It was about a quarter size, about like that, a black spot on the bottom of my foot. Thought they were just going to cut it off. That was a big surgery all by itself. They had to through plastic surgery. After they cut it off, they had to redo my whole instep. So it was like 6 weeks without walking, which for me, an active person, that was hard. But then they found a lymph node in my groin that had cancer, and it had traveled to my groin. And just recently they found another one, even after they had taken out the first lymph node and taken off the cancer in my foot, it's still there. And so the last 3 weeks, as probably everybody in this room knows, I went through some pretty bad side effects from the latest drug to attack the new cancer. And then they gave me some other medicines to affect the side effects, and it shot my blood sugar high and did all kinds of stuff. And now I'm injecting insulin, and I'm actually having to take care of my blood sugar. So all of that is not fun, but I am coming out on the other side of that. I'm feeling better moving forward. I'm not all the way through, but you know what? I'm still a strong believer. God is good, and I'm going to get through this. And I want people to know you could come out the other side of what you're going through, no matter what that is, whether it's cancer or something else. I want people to be encouraged and inspired that you don't have to sit where you're at. Just like Mark said, and Mark, we're going to talk to you next, and that is you talked about you decided you were going to live, right? You decided you were going to live, and I interrupted your story, so I want you to pick it up, and I want to bring you up next. Go for it.
Thank you, Russ. Anyway, so I set my first goal to reach my birthday, and that was one of the greatest days of my life so far. And that day I opened my eyes, and I thank God for allowing me to see my birthday, because that was my first goal. And from that point on, I knew I was going to make it, because I just knew it. I had faith that I would make it, and I was so excited. And little to my knowledge, what was going to happen that day, my two daughters, Tanya and Lisa, they put together a video with the family and friends, and it was probably 15-20 minutes long, and people got up and said, a lot of nice things, and I'm still thankful for it, and every now and then I still watch it. But at the very end, one of our friends came on and said, "Hey, I've got a special friend that wants to say happy birthday to you." And so I'm like, what in the world is going on? And my daughter Lisa, she's filming me as I'm watching this on my laptop, and I'm thinking, what in the world? And to my surprise, none other than Kevin Hart came on and wished me a happy birthday. So that was just the greatest surprise I've ever had, and
That's awesome.
It was such a great day. And I just believe, and I've been preparing a speech that I'm going to be giving on this Sunday at my church, inside the church. And I have no idea how many people are going to be there, but I've been preparing. We've been working on it since October. And one of the things that came to me in the past week is when we're given a cancer diagnosis, everybody is thrown, and I was no exception. But how you approach it from there, once you get your diagnosis, is so critical. And I don't know how many people are sports fans out there, but the worst thing that you could see a football team do, and Russ, you'll understand what I'm saying here. When a team has a big lead, what's the worst thing that a football team could do? It's going to the prevent defense, and you're backpedaling, and bad things happen. And so I relate that to the cancer journey, because when we're diagnosed with cancer, we're caught off guard, and instantly we're backpedaling. And so we're just waiting for things to come to us. And I just feel it should be the other way around, because it should be a person getting to get knowledge about cancer. And that's the whole, where all the fear comes in, is a lack of knowledge.
Right.
We become doctors and lawyers, and we go to school to become whatever it is we're going to become. But nobody does that with cancer. Right. It doesn't make sense. I heard a stat the other day from a major medical publication that came out in 2015. And that publication said that in our lifetimes, to expect 1 out of every 2 people to get cancer.
Wow.
That is an epidemic as far as I'm concerned. And people should really wake up and, get in tune with what this is, because it is scary. So let's go on the offensive instead of backpedaling, and, take control of our own situations and advocate for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good life lesson, Mark. We need to be on the offense. We need to not sit back and let things come at us. We need to take action and move forward. And as we move through this journey, or we move through it, we're learning every step of the way. And I think that's so important. So Terri, go ahead and let's get a little deeper into your cancer journey.
Sure. Well, my cancer journey was short. So it was surgery, thankfully, and I was stage 1, so I'm pretty healthy. And but my main topic would be my son and his cancer journey. And he was diagnosed at age 2 with acute lymphoblastic leukemia with CNS involvement, so it crossed the blood-brain barrier. So he had radiation, cranial spinal radiation prior to about 2 years and 3 months old. Relapsed 3 times before he was 10 years old and had a life-saving bone marrow transplant at age 10. And enjoyed about 11 years cancer-free until in 2016, his cancer came back with a vengeance and squamous cell carcinoma on his tongue. 2 bouts. He had a 12-hour surgery to have half his tongue removed. But this muscle right here is his new tongue. And then a few months later, about 6 months later, another spot was found, smaller, and so they were pluck it out. Then he had some lymph nodes. It's the hot lymph nodes that the other presenter talked about. And so far, he's heavily supported by many ologists over the course of the last 26 years. And we just take it day by day, but he loves to golf. He loves to cook. And he's just a great kid, and we love him dearly. And my daughter, also being a child sibling of a cancer kid, it was tough for her too. So we have to really include those siblings dealing with it. Even with an adult parent that's going through cancer, I think the siblings really take a hit, and it's not pleasant. But we try to keep her involved in her sports. I'm a sports lover. My daughter played soccer and all the way through college. And so we really enjoyed that. So we were on both ends of the spectrum. We had a child, very sick, and yet our daughter was excelling on the other end. So we had a little bit of both worlds. And I want to just say for people listening, it's really the communities that you're getting involved with, and maybe the advocacy for your child or as an adult. And we talked a little bit about that earlier. The advocacy is it. Community, the power of community, power of connection, power of a chocolate chip cookie. And they all work at some point.
Well, I couldn't agree with that more. Thank you. Community connection and community building are the foundation of life as far as I'm concerned, but especially when you're going through struggles, and the ability to reach out, help others, and then them reaching back and helping you is so vital through this journey, which I can't even imagine without my beautiful wife and family and all my wonderful friends, like all of you, there to support as you're going through it. So, Savio, let's bring you up. Give a little more information on your cancer journey.
Yeah, so cancer showed up in my life in July of 2014. I was experiencing a distended stomach that kept growing. At the time, I lived a very kind of organic, holistic lifestyle, and my naturopath did my blood work and said, something's wrong. You need to seek out traditional mainstream medicine. And so I ended up getting a sonogram, and they wouldn't let me leave the office. Had a family member come to pick me up and told me to go to the hospital right away. And so my dad came, he picked me up, we went to the hospital, and I was admitted literally within an hour to the 5th floor. And that night I heard some rumblings from the nurses that I would be transferred to what they call the 7th floor, which they inadvertently said was the cancer floor. So I had an idea that night I had cancer. It wasn't confirmed until they had to do a bone marrow aspiration on me, and they also put in a nephrostomy tube in order to distend some of the liquid from my stomach. And I was given the news that it was stage 3, diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. I was in the hospital for 15 days, and I was told 4 days before I got discharged that I would have to start my first round of chemo. And at the time, I remember my medical director looking at me deadpan in the face and saying, I know that you don't even take aspirin, and you've lived, I was 38 at the time. But I'm telling you right now that if you do not take your first round of chemo, you might not be here any longer. And I was like, wow. And so I thought really deeply within myself. I've always really relied on a central core identity, which is my I grew up Catholic, but I've always sort of been interested in just spirituality in general. And I asked that night, what should I do? And I remember there was a scene, and I tell this story often, so people might have heard it before. But there's this movie called Little Buddha starring Keanu Reeves back in, I think it was the 90s. And there was a scene where it's about the story of the Buddha of Siddhartha, and he basically gave up all his worldly possessions. He was meditating with two ascetics in like a very sort of grassy knoll area, and he heard two individuals on a fishing boat as he was meditating, and one of them had an instrument. One of them says, "If you hold the instrument too tight, it'll snap. If you hold it too loose, it won't play. The key is the middle path." And so I just realized in that moment that I needed to do both. And so I pursued that. I did 6 rounds of RCHOP therapy, which is Rituxan, along with 4 other really powerful chemo drugs. And on the opposite cycles, on the opposite weeks, I did a whole boast and modality of integrated modalities in general. I just knew for myself that I had to treat cancer not only as a challenge and as an enemy, but as something that I needed to understand. And so I went full throttle. I focused like a laser beam. Everything else in my life just stayed still, except for my search and my desire to overcome my cancer. I can happily say that through that process, it took me 4.5 months, and I got my remission status that year in December of 2014. And I've been in remission for 8.5 years at this moment.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, and I think it's your attitude. It's proven scientifically that a positive attitude and really taking action in your life with what you're doing is going to help your definitely improve your health. And you obviously diving in and focusing on that and being very intentional about what you were choosing to do, I think is so important. And I think that's important with each person. One thing that I've been inundated with well-meaning, loving friends and family members. You get everybody's cure for cancer all at once, and I'm thankful. By the way, thank you everybody for that. I do appreciate that. I'm not saying I don't, but there's a lot of ideas about how to do that, and so it's important to really be intentional with what you're doing and make your choices. When I talk about live the life you choose, I think that's important every step of the way. One of my favorite phrases, I think I said it earlier, is life happens and then you choose. And I said that so many times before last summer when when the cancer showed up, and when I actually went into that, and they told me I had to learn invasive malignant melanoma. That's an easy one compared to what you had, but yeah, unfortunately, they told me I had the bad one as far as skin cancers, and it decided to keep moving. And well, at this point, I'm still in the middle of that because they're trying to level my body out so they can take the next step, which probably looks like surgery and radiation at this point. But I still have to talk to my oncologist and my surgeon and all that about that portion. Um, but yeah, I think that every step of the way, holding on to faith. I've been holding on to God and believing every step that I go that, things are going to be better, that I'm going to be healed, and that the doctors I have amazing medical team at OHSU where I am at. And I'm just so blessed by that. And Tim, you went through a beginning of your journey. Everything was good. I mean, everything went along, and then you were in remission, but you still have to be keeping an eye on that. And they found a few things along the way, right?
Yeah, so I was originally diagnosed 16 years ago with chronic myeloid leukemia, which is a blood cancer. I had some purple bruises on my legs, so I went to my primary care physician, and they took some blood work, and they gave me a phone call, and they said, you need to go to the hospital right now. So right then I went to the hospital, went on a 2-hour drive to the hospital, and I was at the hospital for 4 days. And in that time period, they diagnosed me with CML, chronic myeloid leukemia. At the time, I had 400,000 white blood cells in my body.
Wow.
And yeah, wow, right? 400,000. I think the normal amount is somewhere between 5 and 10,000. So that's quite a drastic difference.
Yeah.
So the treatment that I still do up to this day is I take oral chemotherapy medication, which is 1 pill every day. When I first was diagnosed, it was Gleevec, Gleevec. Now I take one called Sprycel. And so I've been very blessed in my journey that for the most part, from a physical perspective, I have felt for the most part fine. And so that's been wonderful. And from a mental perspective, I've had a lot of survivor's guilt about that over that time period. And then in 2021, 1 month after the Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer show was created, I found out that I was cancer-free after almost 15 years of having leukemia. So I was like, and that came out of nowhere. And I was like, that's awesome, right? And then just a few months ago, I found out that my cancer is back. I still feel fine, but from a mental perspective, it's like, whoa, right? But I do want to mention that when my cancer came back, and definitely shout out to my co-host Erica on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. She's amazing. Terri knows her. Mark, probably all of you know her. She wasn't able to be on the show that week. So what I ended up doing was hosting the show myself. And I talked about my cancer coming back and what that experience was going like. But then I also invited people to come on with me. I called it an Ask Me Anything show. And Mark came on and Amanda Ferraro came on. And as always, people came on gave their comments or put their comments in as well and gave their perspectives and thoughts as well. And I just felt so supported. I so needed that. I'm going to need the puffs, Russ.
Yeah.
Shout out to puffs. Seriously.
I've got some somewhere. Hang on.
You got some?
I've got the screaming goat here too. If we need
I
to
either need the puffs or a goat.
wait, here. We'll get the screaming goat. There's the box. The goat's hiding.
There it is. But going back to that whole idea of community being so important when you're going through cancer, whether you're first diagnosed or your cancer is back, right? The idea of being supported, and that's what I've got.
Well, I want to just chime into that because everybody here has experienced it, and somebody else brought it up besides you, and that is the initial, I think it was Mark, when it hits you initially. And, when I started off, the melanoma on the bottom of my foot was 2A. They put letters on it nowadays, I guess. So it was 2A, and I thought, okay, great. They're going to cut it off. Everything's going to be good. I'm going to move forward. Then when they found the tumor in my groin, it jumped to 3C. And my surgeon said, I'm going to be honest with you. That's a big jump. And we got to really get on this and do something. And I think that when that initially hit and it was a bigger deal, I wasn't all the way to stage 4 like Mark, but I'm 3C right on the brink. And I'm thinking, and pretty much my family and I broke down that night. You got to have that moment where you kind of just hits you, right? And you're like, I can't even believe this. It seems like a bad dream. It doesn't seem like me. It's almost like an out of body experience, right? Looking at myself. And so, but then the community all coming around and people helping, it's just overwhelming. And, the emotional part of it, Terri, that people don't really imagine, like Tim talked about too, is the loved ones. My beautiful wife has had a much harder time emotionally, I think, than because she is bearing the brunt of caring for me and taking care of me when I'm not feeling good and when things aren't going well. And that's tough, and my daughter who lives in town has done a ton. My whole family has helped out. My son and daughter-in-law have flown up here and helped. And my sister, Brenda, drives me to OHSU and back quite often. And so I've just been so blessed. But without that emotional support, it becomes harder to really go through the journey, right, Terri? You need that, and you need to protect your loved ones.
Correct. Yeah, my husband, he had to keep the insurance going. So he had to keep his job to keep the insurance going, to keep the kid in treatment, right? I mean, really boiled down to it. But I had, and we just moved here 10 weeks prior to my son being diagnosed. So we didn't know really a soul. And I was basically hospitalized with him the whole 1996 to 1997. If I wasn't in the hospital, we were home, but we were going to the hospital for blood products or platelets or whatever. So it was an intense year. And then he had a lot of problems. And of course, his leukemia was really a tough leukemia. So the relapses weren't really, they were devastating, but they weren't really that surprising because his initial diagnosis, so forth. But what you said about the community and our neighbors and our community start rallying, and it just the ring got bigger and bigger and bigger before almost like a worldwide wing at some point. And we were just so blessed in that. And I still think of that. I'm getting goosebumps and my hands are sweating just even thinking about it again, because it's a real thing. And I'm thankful for all the people, from the doctors to the dog walkers, really, and everybody in between.
Right.
That's how I said, yeah. And it's really in life, and really it's in the little things. Like I said, the power of a chocolate chip cookie, getting pizza for the residents and the staff on the floor, just because I'm there and I'm hungry. So, hey, at 2:00 in the morning, you guys want something? It's those little moments that really help break up that monotony and that devastating news.
Well, I'm longing for a chocolate chip cookie right now, but with my blood sugar all out of whack, I can't have one.
I'll send you one when you can.
So, what a blessing all of you are. Mark, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to do a last round. Just give everybody your last thoughts on not only the journey of cancer, but overcoming and keeping that positive attitude, and then let everybody know, how do they get in touch with you?
Thanks, Russ. Mindset is so much more important for a cancer journey than even in regular life. Although I believe that especially in today's world, with all the negativity, positive attitude is so essential. But with the cancer journey, it's absolutely a must. There's a book that I read by Kelly Turner called Radical Remissions, and she points out 9 characteristics that cancer patients who've made it that she's seen. And I've seen the same ones, and I'm not going to go through them right now, but one of the main ones is not only diet, but a positive attitude. And a positive attitude, there's so many things that we as cancer patients have to go through. We almost have to compartmentalize things as we go through our days. I mean, I took a one day at a time approach because if I would have looked at the landscape of what I had to do, not only this week, but next week, but next month, it would have been overwhelming. So I just took it one single day at a time. And by doing that, it was easy, by taking the little bite of a day and just taking each day in and of itself really worked out well for me. And so just wanted to share how important that positive attitude on a daily basis is. I wake up and I'm excited every single day. I'm thankful for every single day, every single minute of every single day, because that's our most precious commodity is time.
Yep, that's right.
You cannot replace it. And to finish up, people can reach me on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel called To Be Your Own Hero. And we also run a cancer group on the Clubhouse app called Cancer Conquering Community. And so, get involved. If you're a cancer patient, reach out to, there's so much more now than even a few years ago. Get involved, because these are some of the greatest people on earth. No doubt about it. So thank you so much, Russ, for doing this. We really appreciate it.
You bet, Mark. And all your information magically appeared below you and is in both the show notes and the comments. So everybody can click on that if you want to get a hold of Mark. And we're going to go to Savio next. Savio, wrap it up for us.
Sure. So, just in reflecting with my own cancer journey and story, and also I come from a very interesting perspective because my book was a result of interviewing at this point 200 cancer survivors. So, I understand um, their pain, I understand their sorrow, but I also understand their victory story to some degree. And what I would just leave your audience with is, I think the key here is you need to advocate for yourself. You need to understand and have knowledge what your cancer is because you're fighting something, and you need to understand what its weaknesses are, what's its strengths, and find ways in and around that. The one thing that I said to myself when I was in the hospital for 15 days was my physical body with cancer is diseased, but my other parts of who I am, my emotional body, my my mental thinking, my psychology, my spirituality, they're all intact. And I basically pulled myself from that disease or that aspect. And of course, I thank the doctors, I thank the chemo and all that. But I think a lot of this comes down to not only mindset, but in the belief in the impossible. And us cancer survivors are proof positive that it's not a death sentence. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. You can overcome. And so I would just leave that with with your audience and with with everyone else listening.
Great. And people get in touch with you?
Sure. So they can find me on my main website, which is thehumanresolve.com. It's the same, The Human Resolve, on all the socials. And on LinkedIn, I'm Savio P. Clementi.
Awesome. And of course, that magically appeared below you as you were speaking. So people can click on that, get a hold of Savio. And Terri, we're going to go to you next.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to say that because making lemonade out of lemons has already been taken. So my whole thing about all this cancer and everything else in my life, I've had to manufacture a lot of sunshine. So Manufacturing Sunshine is my blog, and you can reach me at territomoff.com. But I want to say that this is a quote that I thought of, and it's actually on my website, is sometimes life's greatest gifts are in the smallest things that make the biggest impact. And no matter what we're going through, whether cancer or any mental disease, anything that really were life-challenging moments, I've learned that when we help others, we ultimately help ourselves. And thank you for hosting, Russ, all of us.
You bet. You bet. And I couldn't agree with that more. By reaching out and blessing others, we're blessed, and we help other people and help each other, we're helped. And I could not agree with that more because it's so important to come together as a community to actually take action in helping people. And so, yeah, Terri, thank you so much. All your information too is in the show notes and it magically appeared below you.
I know the only thing I see, Quills from the Heart, that's no longer available. It's territomoff.com now.
Okay. All right.
That's okay.
We'll get that fixed. Fixed. So,
perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, Tim, we're going to wrap up with you for today.
Yes, thank you so much again for having me and all of us, Russ. So I would say, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of sharing your cancer story, because sharing your cancer story brings you together with other cancer patients, survivors, and supporters. And it can lead you to people such as all of you people who are so supportive. You can learn from people. You'll learn from other people. You'll connect with people that will support you and that you will support. I remember shortly after I started sharing my cancer story and I shared it on LinkedIn, somebody saw in my LinkedIn title that it said leukemia survivor. So he reached out to me, and he was another leukemia survivor, but he had only been diagnosed 3 months before. And he said, "Hey, could we get on a call?" And so we talked, and he was scared. He didn't know what to expect. And so we just had a conversation. We talked about life. We talked about cancer. We had some good laughs. And so I would just encourage those of you who are going through cancer, who have been through cancer, to share your story when you truly feel it's time to share your story. Also, Russ, I want to thank you for inspiring all of us by continuing to show up, sending you love and light and hugs as you go through your cancer journey. You have been continuing to show up with all of your posts and shows, through it all, and sending you big hugs, Russ Hedge.
Well, you know what? I tell you, the Radiating Real movement that Nancy and you really started has inspired me, because sharing really brings people together and brings people out that need that inspiration and need that, like you said, maybe they're going through something similar. One thing I didn't mention when Terri was talking, and that is I had both a close friend who had a son, and I had my niece, her little son, both went through the leukemia journey for 2 or 3 years, and both are in remission, and young men that are doing great and are in high school now, and they were just little when it started.
Sure.
And what a blessing to see them and how their families rallied around. And Dornbecker's here in Portland was amazing for them. It's actually just next to OHSU where I go. But just amazing. And, they've really rallied back. We're a close family, but they've really rallied back and are praying and are supporting me through what's going on. And I just think that, again, supporting each other, lifting each other up makes all the difference. It really does. So I just want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to send you all to the green room real quick and wrap things up. But what a blessing. And really, Mark and I have known each other for a while now, but Savio and Terri, so great to meet you. And we will stay in touch. I'm a lifetime connector, so you're stuck with me as your friend now. So,
I am too.
For sure.
I love it. That's great. I love it. Thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
We
you.
love
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
all
Tim.
right. Hey, hang tight here in the green room. I'm going to send you out right now, one at a time. If I get everybody out, there we go. Woo. All right. Well, listen, thanks so much for being here, everybody. This again, Russ Reels Live is all about being real and all about being authentic. And, today we were very vulnerable with the stories of what's happened in our lives and what's happening in our lives. And you know what? But the bottom line is there's hope. The bottom line is there's a brighter day. I loved what my dad used to say when I was young. When your day was really going crummy and things were just falling apart, he'd look at me and he'd go, son, tomorrow's another day. And meaning that, you know what, this too shall pass. We'll move on. Things are going to be better tomorrow. And I want to tell you all that too, whatever you're going through. I know I have no idea what you're going through, whether it's cancer or whether it's another disease or whether it's just family issues or whatever is happening in your life. Maybe your life is fantastic and you're celebrating. I am so glad for you. But whatever's going on, I just want to tell you, hang tight, keep moving forward. There's going to be ups and downs in life. In this life, we're going to have trouble. And we just need to hang tight and move through it and come out better on the other side. And we are truly better together as represented by this group today. So just want to thank you all for being here today. And don't forget, every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Russ Reels Live, we will be here. We are a topic-driven, panel-driven show. So we have great topics and great panels, including many of the people in the comments today that have been part of Russ Reels Live. So thanks again to Tim and Savio and Terri and Mark so much for being here today. And we will see you all next week, 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Russ Reels Live. Till then, have a great day and a great life. Bye, everybody.